All right, hey everybody, welcome back. In this video, we are going to be going over some of the tools of the trade that we use for analyzing deals, okay? So fair warning, all of these softwares are they have deep capabilities, way more than I'm going to cover in this quick crash course. But through this video, through some of the previous videos and through the bonuses we include, where you watch me go through and do a mailer or watch me analyze a deal, you are going to kind of get the basics. You're going to get what you really need to use. And to be frank with you, I don't use anything out of what I've showed you in these videos. So you're going to see how I interact with these tools. This is not meant to be like a full-blown course on DataTree or MapRight or anything like that. But luckily, most of the softwares are pretty easy and self-explanatory. So with that being said, we're going to jump in. I'm going to be going over MapRight, DataTree, Lands of America, and Zillow. These are really the only tools I normally pull up whenever I am analyzing a deal. Okay, so let's jump in. Okay, so I figured it'd be great to just kind of walk you guys through the process of what happens when a lead comes in, right? So on our team, you can see here, and again, people use different softwares and different systems. Trello is what we use. We have a pretty big team, and Trello works really well for the project management side. A lot of people use a lot of different things. So take it for what it's worth, but we like Trello. So this is what a lead looks like when it comes through. When it goes through our system, our team puts, pictures of the property on the cards, goes through all of our normal kind of starting information here. This has, they've gone through wetland, they have access, comps here, just removed them for the video. They have all sorts of different things here, right? All the stuff we kind of talked about on the acquisitions module that are in the facts check, right? Floodplain access, comps, taxes, and slope. You can see they've kind of answered all of those here. And then some notes, and then they've listed some comps down here. All right. So this is what it looks like when it comes in. So I figured I would use this as an example and just kind of walk through how I would have analyzed this deal. All right. So first thing we do is our team creates a MapRight link for it. Right. So I believe I have that up here. So here is the deal that we're looking at. So MapRight, this is a tool, another tool that we use here, and this is one of the most important tools, I think. It really combines a lot of different tools into one for you. So where you may need to go to a FEMA website to look at the floodplain, and you may need to go to the county website to look at their outline of the property. Whatever the case may be, MapRight pulls in a lot of this information for you. Not only does it pull in really cool stuff like the floodplains, so I'll show you here, you can pop your floodplain up. We don't have a floodplain here. You can see the blue over here though, there's some floodplain. We can see the wetlands. You can see there's a small wetland that runs through this, but that really wouldn't be a problem for us. You can even click on it. It'll tell you what the type is, what the FEMA code for it is. So that's pretty cool. And in addition, you can click on, the properties. You can see who owns them, and just depending on the county, but it will pull a lot of really cool information in for you. Legal description. Sometimes it'll pull in the last sale, type of transaction, resale, maybe not for this county. Some areas it will. If you know what a county GIS system is, it's like a big GIS that works pretty much across the country. For example, if I went to LaFleur County, which is where this property is, LaFleur County GIS, right? I don't actually know if they have one. I have not analyzed this, and it does not look like they do. LaFleur County, Oklahoma, GIS. I believe this is Mississippi. So you can see this one, LaFleur County doesn't even have their own internal publicly accessible GIS. For example, though, this is a county in Colorado I know has one. So you can click into this. And you'll see these kind of look similar, right? There's different softwares and different ways that you use these, but this is the specific system for this county, Castilla County. So, all counties have generally, some of the ones like that, rural county in Oklahoma won't, but most counties will have their own internal system. So you don't necessarily have to pay for a system like MapRight, but when you're doing deals across different areas and you're really trying to streamline your business, I find that having one mapping tool is like really very, very helpful. And yeah, sometimes we have to come in and we have to use the local systems, but I would say recently, like MapRight, pretty much on the ball. They have, for most areas we work, all the data that we need. Okay, so I did not mean to do that, but I was just going to show you real quick. This is kind of the same thing as MapRight. I should zoom in here. We should see the parcels pop up, and typically you can click on the parcels. And again, similarly to MapRight, it'll give you the information. I believe you have to, I don't know how this exact one works. Yeah, there we go. And it pops up down there. So again, a GIS system, I believe, is Geographical Information System. They're implemented and deployed on the county level. So one county may have one, the other county may not. They may have different tools, but just know that most counties have a way you can come in and look at the property here within their local system. But then again, like, so I don't think this one has overlaying FEMA maps. Like, they're just not normally as robust. So that's why we generally stick with MapRight. So anyhow, MapRight has really everything you need. You look at sloping, these are your contour lines here, wetlands, floodplain, all sorts of different things you can look in here. You can look at transmission lines. There's a million things you can look at. So really what we use this for is just what I said, is our facts check, floodplain, access, comps, taxes, and slope. Generally, sometimes you can see the taxes in here. There's a lot of stuff you can do. So that's why we like it. Has another cool little bit here. It takes a lot of computer processing power. Let's see if it works here. But it'll try and create it'll try and create a replicated map of the terrain. It just takes a little bit of time, as you can see here, and it might destroy my computer as I'm as I'm trying to record this video. But it did a little bit here. You can see. Kind of tries to represent the slopes. You can see over here, there's some upslopes. It's a really cool tool, and we use it every single day, really. So this property here, we're able to come in, see, okay, there's a wetland here, and there's a little pond next door. Doesn't really bother us. That's not going to do anything. It's just tiny, and there's no floodplain. And you may say, well, how do I know if a floodplain is like important or not important? It's very county by county level. So you got to look at the state and the area. What I can tell you as a generality is the closer you get to sea level, the more important floodplains become. For example, if you're in Arizona and you're at 2,000 or 3,000 feet, if you're in Colorado, you're at 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 feet. Floodplains don't matter as much there. You'll see a lot of things are built inside the floodplains. But for examples for like East Texas, Georgia, Florida, like those areas are right at sea level. Oftentimes they're 40, 60, 80, like the elevation may be 50 feet. And so generally there's more consequences of having actual floodplains because there's a lot more water that moves around. Now, that's not an all encompassing rule. You really just need to get on the phone, talk to the planning and zoning people in whatever county you're talking to, say, hey, this property is an XYZ flood zone. What does that mean? And they'll be able to tell you, right? So that's how we use this for this deal. Pretty straightforward. We can see there may be an access issue, which hint, there was an access issue. There's a little driveway here, but it's not cut out. So anyway, long story short, we were able to come in here, figure out the access issue, and we're working with this neighbor now. We're just going to give them a small sum, and they're going to allow us to extend the roadway. So good little deal here. Picked this one up for, I think we got it under contract for 11,000. It'll probably be worth 40,000. Just a good bread butter deal. Took a little extra work to get done, but no big deal. So this is how I analyze this, how I would look at it. I have a couple other examples here. This is another one, not a great example, but this is a little closer to a city. This is outside of Phoenix, Arizona. Somebody wanted to sell this property to us. They wanted way too much money, so we did not buy it. But what was good about this is as I was cross-referencing on Zillow, I was able to see that some of the neighboring properties were for sale, and I was able to see the pricing, and that kind of gave us just a dead indicator on how much the property was worth. So there's one. Here's another one I pulled up just because it had some more dramatic sloping. So you can see here that you have, from top to bottom in this property, you're changing about 100 feet. So not too terrible. How I normally measure slope to determine if it's usable or if it's really unusable is you're just looking for a percentage. And I'll show you how to calculate that real quick. It's very simple. I come into tools and I use this perimeter measurement tool, and you just need to measure in different parts of the property. And I'll just draw out a 100-foot line here. I'm going to come down here and do it just because it will be easier. We measure it from this point, measure about 100 feet. And we can see the elevation change here is not much. That's probably about 5 feet. Let's say it's 5 feet. All right. Because you can see we have 6,020 and 6,000. That may have been a 5-foot change there. So if you draw a 100-foot line and it changes 5 feet, it's around about a 5% change. It's around a 5% slope on the property. Okay. If I were to zoom out and go to some of these properties over here, let's see if we can find an example of one that might be a little bit less usable. So let's use this guy, for example. Okay. Big property. Let's look up here kind of in its more ridged areas. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to use my perimeter tool again. I'm just going to measure a 100-foot line here. It's about 100 feet there. So if we come in and look at this, we go from 6,400 to 6,420. So in this area of the property, it's about a 20% slope. 20% is, you're getting towards unusable. 25 is normally my tipping point. I've sold many sloped lots, so it's definitely not a game changer. And especially for this property, you can see it's sloped here, but up here it's not as sloped, right? We could go do the same thing here. Pull out our perimeter measure, pull this line out here and see that up here. Okay, well, we're about 100 feet and it moves about 15, and probably about 10. So that's probably about a 10% slope there. That's perfectly fine to build something on. And of course, down here, as the property goes down, there's a lot more flat areas. But just kind of trying to show an example, like if, this was the property here, right? If this was the whole property, this little section, these would probably be way over 15%, I would guess, just by doing a look. You can see here, we move 6420 to 6380, so about 40 feet. So over 100-foot line, it moves 40 feet, roundabout going to be a 40% slope. That would be unusable, right? So just a couple of examples there. That's how we generally gauge slope. So this is MapRight. That's really what we do. We come in, we actually have our team do it. They come in here and they check everything, any red flags they note. Obviously for this one, it was pretty straightforward. So now we've looked at the property, we've gauged, hey, there's no big red flags with this one other than the access, but we kind of knew that going into it. So how would we go about actually looking for comps on this? So at some point you got to price it, right? You got to know what it's worth and you got to know what you can pay. Okay, so I'm going to come here and copy this parcel number, and I'm going to take this over to DataTree, and I'm going to go to state Oklahoma. I'm going to go to county LaFleur. And again, you got to be careful because you never know. I need to change this. So you see here, it says search by. This happens to me all the time. You got to change it over to APN. Okay, and now let's see if that works. It may not. Let's actually search for the guy by name. Let's see if that brings it up. Hopefully. Okay, there we go. So here we see the property. Okay. And depending on the area, DataTree may or may not have comps available. Okay. You can see, as long as Zoom is not covering it up here, there will be little dots as I zoom out start popping up. Like, for example, you can already see within the screen, this lot here is listed for sale for 260,000. So that could be one of your comps. Now, should it be? No, because it has a house on it. But if it was just raw land, it could be. Right. So depending on how you get to it, right, every county is different. You got to realize this system, DataTree, it just indexes all of the different county databases, and then it's representing the data to you in a way that you can digest it. So you got to understand that sometimes copy and pasting the APN number, like I just did, may not work, right? I may have needed to get it in this format, or I don't even know. I just decided to search for his name and I was able to find it. So you just got to kind of play around with that sometimes. But anyhow, so here's the property. I'm gonna start zooming out a little bit and see if we can see any land comps pop up. So this is free. All right. And the reason I'm showing you this is you can do this for free. You don't have to pay for a report to actually look at these comps. Let's see. This one looked like it was vacant. Nope, that's a house. I can see having a little trouble finding a vacant lot over here, which is probably good. Probably good for us. That means there's not many for sale. Let's look up here a little more. This has a house on it. Let's use it as an example. So you can click it, push view property, and you'll see what the sales price was, right? And again, this is free. I'm going to show you in a second a way that you can actually go and just say, hey, give me all the comps around this. But I'm trying to see if we can maybe find a good land comp that might help us out a little bit. All right. I may have spent my limit of time that I want to searching for a land comp. So let's switch over and I'll show you how to run a sales comp report. Okay, so as you can see, not every software works perfectly every time. Unfortunately, it didn't give me any free comps. So I'm going to show you how to run a cheap report that I think is the best value on DataTree that can generally give you some good comps. So first, you need to find your property and select it like I have here. This is our property. I'm going to come over and drop down property data reports, and I'm going to click this sales comparable report. All right, all you got to do is that and push order. Okay, so while that's loading, we'll give you just a quick note. If you lose this page, it's really hard to get back to. Okay, so try not to lose it. If you do lose it, it's only available for a few days. You have to come back and select the property, and it will pop up next to this subject property. Okay, hard to get back to, but if you do end up clearing it, can't get back, that's how you come back to it. You push sales comps. So here we're on our sales comp report. You're going to see, you're going to think, oh my God, I just paid $2 for this report and it gave me no comps. All right. This report is built for houses. Pretty easy, pretty simple. Okay. So we need to go back and rebuild it for land. So as you can see right there, I just pushed edit search criteria. And what I'm going to do is let me make this screen a little bigger. There we go. I am going to make this larger. All right. So it says distance from subject 0.5. That's 0.5 miles. I'm going to go for 10. Okay. And probably won't pop it up there. I think after you go over 5 miles, it does not do the animation, but it will work. Then I delete this living area difference because we don't have living areas. We only have land. Months back, I generally start with 12, and then we'll just see what comes up. Sales price, not going to say that. Sales date comes up. We want to come over here, and I click this. I just delete what it says, and then I type in vacant. Okay, vacant land. Click that. And it'll bring up all your vacant lands. And then for the lot acreage, so this is a 5-acre property. So in general, a 100-acre property is not going to comp the same as a 5-acre property. So for me, I want to look at what properties, let's say 2 to 10 acres are selling for. It's a pretty good range for a 5-acre lot. And if it doesn't have any, we'll look for more. So big note, this may trip you up. Okay. Lot area, you can easily just come in here and like type in 2 to 10 and just go crazy with yourself because you're like, what? I put in 2 to 10, like Clint said, and nothing's coming up because this is in square feet. Okay. Lot area, square feet, lot acreage is acreage. I've done this way too many times and been frustrated with it. So it'll populate and change it for you there. Look at again. So 12 months back, 10 miles, same type of properties and similar acreage. I'll push apply changes. Only gave us one comp, unfortunately. So let's see if we go 20 miles and we go 24 months back. All right, let's see what happens. Apply changes. Oh, now we got 50. All right, so maybe that range was a little big. I'm going to change it back to 15. Okay, so now we got 36 properties in the general area. Let's just start looking at them. Okay, so we can see that this property here sold. Let's push view report. So it'll come up here and it'll show you a number next to all of them. So the S is your subject. This is number one. Number one sold for $32,000. And that was about, from the date of recording this, that was almost a year and a half, it was over a year and a half ago. So if you're curious, it's about 45,000 square feet to an acre. But honestly, I just always pop it up here. And I just say square feet to acres. And so this is a 7-acre property sold for about 30,000. Okay, so that's good. That's a good comp. 7-acre vacant property sold for 32,000. Great. That's what I need to know. It's right next door to it. It sold in 2020. Prices have gone up since then, especially through the pandemic. But that's a great comp to start with. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. We got 24. Let's scroll down to 24 here. And this one sold and I didn't give a price. So sometimes, especially in states that are non-disclosure states, you can just put a number on the deed and you don't have to actually disclose the true sales price. So sometimes you'll get wonky stuff like that. Make sure you just throw that out, right? 25, this is about a 3-acre property and it looks like it sold for 21,000. So let's see. Yeah, about 3.5 acres for 21,000. So 21,000 divided by 3.5. That's 6,000 an acre. Let's see when that was. That was in 2021. So a much more recent comp, about 4 months ago. So we can see how, this is just a good example. Luckily it worked out this way. This 7-acre property used to sell for 32,000 divided by 7, 4,500 an acre. Okay. Now it's selling for closer to 6,000 an acre. And so you can see, you can get these reports. You can go through all of them. There's a lot more comps here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but these are all 2 to 10 acre properties have sold in the last 2 years and they're vacant land. So a good set of comps to look through. Generally, all the prices here look about right. 217, about 4 acres, 22,000, 5,000 an acre. So this is a really good resource to come in and look for comps. All right. Now, sometimes DataTree won't have it for you. Okay. Let me go to something here and let me just show you a quick example. Before I do that, I'm going to zoom in here. I'm just going to click on any random property. Okay. And view it. So you see all this stuff down here, how it says deeds, mortgages, assignments, assessor role, document images, Okay. This is going to tell you how up to date the data is. Okay. Very important. We could have just run that whole comp report, and I probably should have showed you this before that. And this data could have said it hasn't been updated in 18 months. Okay. That would be problematic for us. All right. And I'm going to see if I can go to an area right now that I know does not have good data here. So you can see here, this one's a little bit different. Okay. So it says that it has the assessor role, but it does not have any of this other stuff. Okay. Now, let me give you my personal opinion on that. It doesn't matter. You can choose any property in the county. Okay. I just chose a random one here, and it will give you for this county, this is what we have. Okay. So this says that the last updated date was October 2021. I'm filming this in November of 2021. So that date, how I'm looking at this, just from my experience, tells me that DataTree is not super accurate. All right. I generally find that this number really is lagging a couple months behind. All right. And especially if they don't have any transaction data, so they don't have deeds, mortgages, anything, that means they don't have a big pool into that county. So it makes me really question the quality of the data you get. Okay. So that's why I tell you to look at this, right? The quality of your data is all that really matters, right? And so if this, especially if this had said May 2021, that would make me think that it was really, really long ago. So what I recommend doing in this situation is taking a sample size and comparing it with the county's records. And if you take a sample size of 10 and 2 of them are off, that means you're going to have a really bad data set. Okay. So that's really what we do. I just wanted to show you how to check for the freshness of the data. All right. So let's say that comp was here and I couldn't find good data in DataTree. I would then need to come over here. All right. And so I always do this anyway. So I don't think it's ever just one tool. I think it's very important to check different sources, right? Because just for context, okay, while I'm talking, I'm going to go back to this property. Sometimes, for example, and I saw when we were looking at this just a second ago. Let's go back. I saw when we were looking at this, all right, that we saw here in this report, whenever it pops up, I saw 2 properties up here. Where were right here? Okay. Oh, they weren't. Okay. But anyhow, I'm going to pretend that these 2 numbers are the same. Okay. I'm going to pretend that those 25,000s are the same. And I might be able to find an example on here if I look close enough. I don't see one. So you'll see this a lot. All right. I'm just going to manufacture this example. Pretend this also said 22.5. Okay. You may look at this and say, oh, both of these properties sold for 22,500. All right. When in actuality, what happens is DataTree, maybe they sold 3 properties at one time. Right. And so DataTree goes, and what it does is it looks at the last deed. Okay. Here's the last deed. And the last deed says that the sales price was $25,000 or 22.5, whatever it is here. But what can happen is you can sell multiple properties on one deed. So for example, if they sold both of these properties at the same time, right, they would both come up as 22,500 and they would likely come up as the same date or very, very close dates. Okay. So you got to keep an eye out for that because sometimes you'll see a bunch of properties next door to each other that have sold and you'll click and you'll be like, oh my gosh, this is such a great price for this property. And looking at a little more in depth, you'll see, okay, well, this property and this property and this property and this property all have 20,000, 10,000, whatever it is, that dollar amount on there, they were probably all sold together. And you can also look at the sales date and see when that was. So just a little tip for you because that will definitely catch you. Okay. So let's go into Lands of America. And again, good example here, just walking through it kind of top to bottom, zoomed in on my area. I'm going to go to satellite and I am going to first come up here and do my filters. So same filters as DataTree. We're going to go 2 to 10. Okay. And generally what I do here is I come to more filters and I do includes residents, no, and I add on sold and I do apply. And for some reason, Lands of America likes to zoom out to the whole country. And so boom, here we go. Now we can see some comps. Now, got to show you there's really no shortcut to this. You just got to sometimes find it on the map, unfortunately. So for example, I see Sunset Corner, I see Spiro. I need to go find that. And then I need to backtrack into it. So let's use that one, Spiro, Oklahoma. Spiro, Oklahoma. I'm going to leave my filters on there. This is just going to take me closer to the property because that was the whole county I just searched for. And now I should be able to find this property. in here somewhere. And again, this is just, there's no graceful way to do this, unfortunately. You have to like generally just compare the map. So I'm looking for Highway 31. Let's see if we can go find that over here. Highway 31. The property's just north of that. Looks like it's right here. Boom. Okay, got it finally. So here's my secret tactic to how to comp a property. Okay, you find it on the map, you start zoomed in like this, you push search, and then you zoom out, and you zoom out, and you zoom out, and you zoom out, and zoom out. Okay, so we see here 7 acres, which looks like mostly a pond. Let's see. So right off the highway, 7 acres, a massive pond on the property. This property sold for 45,000. I think this was the one we saw on DataTree. Is that right? Let's see. No, that was 32,000. So, let's actually look at that. Let's see. So subject, property. Nope, not the same one. For some reason, DataTree didn't pull that in. So that shows you not always accurate. So you got to take these numbers with a grain of salt. That's what I was going with. You never know. This could pop up on here and say 45,000. But when they actually did the transaction, it said 32,000. That's why I was checking that, because I wanted to see if there was potentially a misrepresentation. And truly, it's very easy to do. We do it all the time, I bet, is when you take a property down, the back end of land.com will just say, did you sell this property? And it's very easy to just click through the prompts and not change it. And some people just don't want to change it. To be honest, they don't want to report the correct information. So you always got to take numbers with a grain of salt. So the way that this happened, this 45,000, is somebody closed the listing, they sold it, they didn't put in a different price, and that's what happens. And if you just think logically, most people aren't going to go and put the correct price in so that all their competition knows exactly what's going on. So all I say is take the numbers you see here with a grain of salt. All right. So that's a good comp. And again, my secret method is you start here and then you zoom out. So I'm going to zoom out a couple here. I'm going to redo search and see what comes up. So we got some comps, 10 acres, 24, 10 acres for 70,000, 7 acres for 28,000. So you can see here, and this is a really good thing to explain to you, that these these listings are they're varying quite a bit, I would say, in the price. Let me show you something. Let me click in here. Guarantee you, somewhere in here, these generally are realtor listings. And realtor listings you really have to take with a grain of salt, because they're oftentimes directly imported from the MLS. And so oftentimes you can tell, yeah, there you can see, this is a United Mixon County Realty. Sometimes they'll say in the body, it'll say MLS, but you got to look at realtor comps versus investor comps. Okay. So just something to be aware of. Let's do another search out here. We got 25 acres for 2.57 that sold. What's this comp? 5 acres for 25,000 in the middle of nowhere. So what we're doing here is we're coming to verify that what we saw in the data set is correct. All right. Because you want to always have multiple touch points. If you just are gambling on one, then you're kind of gambling. Okay. So look, we're looking at 3,500 an acre here, 10 acres. We're looking at about 6,500 an acre here, 4 acres for 25,000. It's about 6,000 an acre. So this kind of matches what I was thinking on the other side. From DataTree, I was guessing that we were going to be in this, where I put it, we're going to be in this range, somewhere between 4 and 6,000 an acre. I'm seeing pretty much the same thing over here, 4 to 6,000 an acre. There's always outliers. Always want to check. So this one's highway frontage for 210. Not really much for sale up here, but there are a lot of sold, so that's pretty good for us. We're buying this property at, I believe, 2,200 an acre. Yeah, 2,200 an acre. So we're buying this property for. And it is actually funny. The seller told us 2,200 an acre, no deal. And we looked and said 5 or 6 grand an acre. We'll take it, right? So we expect to sell this property for around 35 to 40 grand. That's kind of what my ball. Oh, look, the team even put it on there for us, 30 to 35 grand. So should be a good deal. That is how we go through comping. And same thing on Zillow. You would come in here, you would go find the property. Really, I'm just not going to do it because it's very similar to how we just did on Lands of America. You come in here, you're going to find your property. We're not even in the same area. It's up here. Come in here, find your property, and same thing. You just start doing research. Okay. You set this up for your lots and land. You can look at for sales. You can also look at sold comps. This one's pretty close, 5 acres for 20,000. So, gives you a good touch point. And see, this is actually a little cheaper. This is 4,000 an acre. So that gives me a little bit of a thought of, okay, well, maybe we only get 4,000 an acre here. So anyhow, and I don't know what's going on with Zillow. It says 162 for some reason, but same thing. You're going to come in here, you're going to look at what's for sale, what has sold, and that is going to generally guide your decision making. You can also come into more and set the acreages. This is already set, right? It's 1 to 10. Come in here, see what's going on. What we got here? We got 7 acres for 40,000. So yeah, seems like we're pretty confident in this. So, okay, that's what I got here. These are all the tools we generally use to analyze our deals. That is going to be MapRight, DataTree, Lands of America, Zillow. If needed, you can go to the county assessor website and check out their data as well. Okay, hope this was helpful. Ended up being a full example of me going through a deal. So that's generally the exact process that we walk through. Hope this helps, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.